In this day and age, it seems like you have to start a skill at the ripe old age of 3 to ever be good at it. Whether it's ice skating or chess or fashion designing or playing the piano. Kids today seem to be spending every single waking moment perfecting their craft with their parents cheering them on from the sidelines. But where does that leave us? The tired, uncultured, unskilled masses who didn't start learning these activities while we were still wearing pull-ups. Begging for bits of bread on the outskirts of talent world, forever doomed to a life of Raisin Bran and fluorescent lights and doom scrolling? I hope not. In today's video, I'm going to shine a light on why it's not too late for you to start learning a new skill like the piano, and why I believe you're meant to make music, even if you're starting to learn later in life. When we're children, our brains are in a state of constant hyperdrive. Everything is being processed for the first time, and our brains respond by forming new neural connections at a remarkable rate. Scientists call this the critical period, a window of time where the brain is especially primed to absorb certain kinds of information. Language, movement, music, and this is why kids seem to pick up things so quickly and easily. A lot of the time, it's not talent, it's biology. And when you add in the free time kids have, plus pressure from their parents, and the available access to high quality music teachers, it creates a beautiful cake of musical success. But let's look at our cake for a second. It might not look as beautiful. Because as we get older, the critical period ends. Our prefrontal cortex fully develops, and our brains become less plastic, meaning they don't form new connections as rapidly as they did when we were small. But less plastic does not mean finished, because our brains never stop changing. Because, my friends, our brains are capable of the beautiful, the wonderful, the ultra insane with cherries on top, neuroplasticity. Every time we learn something new, we are literally physically restructuring our brains. New pathways form, existing connections strengthen, and research shows that learning to play an instrument specifically activates more areas of the brain simultaneously than almost any other human activity. Things like motor skills, memory, and emotional processing all fire at once when we play the piano. Unlike kids who absorb information passively and without thinking about it, adults learn through something called contextual learning. Adults connect new information to things that we already know. We find patterns, we ask why, and when it comes to music, this is actually a profound advantage, because at the root of it all, music is entirely made up of patterns. Rhythm, harmony, and melody, all of it is structured and logical and deeply connected to emotional memory. Two things us adults have a lot of. Studies on adult learners also show that we have stronger intrinsic motivation, meaning that when we practice learning something, we show up with more intention and more focus than our child counterparts. And this is pretty obvious. If you've ever seen a 6-year-old trying to focus on a new task, you can immediately tell that adults probably have stronger intrinsic motivation skills. And while we may need more repetition than a 6-year-old to learn new patterns on the piano, we understand learning the piano in a way 6-year-olds never could. People who play instruments also have significantly lower rates of cognitive decline as they age. A large study published in the International Journal of Geriatric Psychiatry tracked over 10,000 adults aged 70 and older for nearly 5 decades and found that those who played an instrument often or always had a 35% decreased dementia risk compared to those who played rarely or never. And a separate study found even stronger results. This study reported that musicians were 64% less likely to develop mild cognitive impairment or dementia, even after adjusting for things like gender, education, and physical activity. This is amazing news because it means that you can start playing the piano and literally strengthen your brain no matter what your age is. This makes me think of that scene in The Notebook where Allie is playing the piano even though she has Alzheimer's and she can still remember the songs that she used to play to Noah. And that movie is so sad. That makes me so sad. But I hope that if I get Alzheimer's, I keep playing the songs that I know for my husband, like Allie does in that movie. But this is so true. Like, let's look at this video.
Yes? You want me to play it?
Hold on. It is the 3rd of March, 2019, and we're moving on to a third movement. Go ahead. Of the Moonlight Sonata. Okay, go ahead.
I don't know it.
That's fine.
it's so insane how our brains can do that? I think that is just so cool. Anyways, so if the science is literally screaming at us that we can still play piano, even if we're older, why aren't we doing it? What is going wrong? Honestly, I think a lot of it comes down to anxiety. As a piano teacher, most of my adult piano students come into my studio with extreme anxiety about being too old, or they think it's too late for them to ever become any sort of musician. And it makes me so sad because I see these people and I can see the spark of creativity in them, and I know that they would be a really good pianist, but they've been either told their whole lives that they can't do it, or they've convinced themselves so much that it would never be possible for them. And so part of my job as a piano teacher is really helping them see their creative potential. I think that we as adults, especially women, have a tendency to sell ourselves short and be so self-deprecating that we think that learning the piano is just a silly whim that we could never actually do and is never something that we could actually be good at. Or our brains are screaming at us to just stop because it's so uncomfortable and shameful and honestly super annoying when we fail at something over and over and over again. And we can see that people younger than us are so good at it. But the truth of learning piano is that you will fail over and over and over again. I've been playing piano for most of my life and have a master's degree in music composition and have had decades worth of training in the classical music world, and I still fail pretty much every single time I play or practice. And that's just the name of the game. But once we accept the fact that we must fail over and over and over again in order to learn an instrument, we can move from this fear stage into the growth and acceptance stage. And we begin to realize that our mistakes are just a small part of our musical journey, and that they're an important part of the musical journey because mistakes oftentimes teach us so much more than if we were to sit down and play things perfectly from the beginning. And this is one of the reasons I started Wild Music Co. And I wrote my book, The Wild Pianist, because I wanted to create something that meets you exactly where you are in your musical journey, even if it's at the very beginning of your musical journey. There's 70 piano lessons in the book. And I composed all of the songs and designed each lesson specifically for adult learners to learn the piano on their own without having to spend tons of money on an in-person piano teacher. You don't need to have any sort of musical experience. It'll just be you and the piano and the music that's inside of you waiting to get out. And I also recorded every song so you can stream it while you learn to play, and recorded 70 video lessons that go along with every single daily lesson in the book. It took me a very long time. But if you're wanting to learn the piano, check this out first before spending tons of money on in-person lessons. And then if you decide you really love playing the piano and want to go further, transitioning into in-person lessons would be so wonderful. But beyond the science and the lessons and any book I could write, there's something bigger happening when you make music. What makes music so magical is that it isn't tangible. It's fleeting and real and raw. And yes, while it might be frustrating and difficult at times, it's also truly amazing, life-changing, and so rewarding. And I think that's just so hard to find today. These experiences that really push ourselves and are in the real world, that develop our character and our personality and our creativity. Music connects us to ourselves and the universe in such strange ways. And I know this sounds really woo-woo or whatever, but I honestly think humanity wouldn't have kept making music since the dawn of time if we weren't meant to. We have this innate human desire in ourselves to create music. And if you've been feeling this inside of you, it would be a disservice to yourself to ignore it. And once you fight through that first hill of self-doubt and fear and pessimism and just forgive yourself, truly just forgive yourself. Because maybe it was because of your childhood and your home life or your financial situation or where you grew up or lack of discipline or emotional challenges or pursuing different passions. Whatever it was, you need to just forgive yourself because it isn't too late for you. I genuinely believe that. Forgive yourself first and the music will follow. I guarantee it. Guys, thanks so much for watching. If you're ready to start your piano journey, I have a free guide in the description that tells you exactly what you need to get started. And I'll link the Wild Pianist book in the description below as well. And I just want you to know that I believe in you, and if you have the desire to learn piano in your heart, and you wouldn't have watched this video if you didn't, I believe you're meant to make music. You just have to be brave enough to start. See you next time!